Hey guys, today's video is going to be a little bit different from the usual Turo content. This one's going to be more like a story time, but also a business lesson. I recently had to take somebody to small claims court, somebody that didn't work on my Turo car, my business vehicle as well, and I ended up winning the case. Woo! Yippee! I'm sharing this because whether you rent cars on Turo or you run a business yourself, or you're just curious about what small claims court is like, there are lessons here that you don't want to learn the hard way like I did. So here's what happened. I hired somebody who claimed to be an electromechanic. This is not like a guy that you like find in the neighborhood or you just find on the side of the street or so. This was a guy who had basically an established business. He had a company vehicle. He was independent, person that worked for himself, but he considered himself to be an electromechanic. And I quote, an electromechanic in his own words. I've never heard of that word, but that is what he told me. He also did things such as car detailing, other electronic installs, such as like maybe GPS systems, alarm systems, stuff of the such, and others, and window tint. So that just kind of paints a picture of what kind of person this is. Not saying he's a bad or good person. I'm just trying to paint a picture of what type of business he does and what type of business he's into. Plenty of people like that out there. So I hired him to do an electronic install on my business vehicle, the car I list on Turo. I made it clear to him that this was a professional income generating business asset for myself and that the install needed to be reliable. Everything seemed fine at first, but not long after, I had a Turo guest that was out on a trip and then I got a call. The car wouldn't start. Apparently, the car was completely dead. Apparently, at least in the guest mind and in my mind that it was probably dead. I started off doing the basic things that you would do with a car, testing the battery, making sure that it wasn't the battery. And since I ruled out that it probably wasn't the battery, I even tried to hire a mobile mechanic to replace the starter. Turns out it was none of that, but I'll get to that in a second. So I had to get it towed. And the mechanic had diagnosed the issue already. He had pretty much said that it was because the installer had put too big of a gauge of a wire on something that was too small to take it without a relay or a fuse or something like that. I'm not a mechanic, so I'm not going to be able to tell you all that stuff. And it interfered with the starter system. Basically, the starter was getting power, but it was the way he installed it made the wire overheat and it caused the starter to not get a signal. So it was keeping the car from starting. This was an issue that could have been avoided had the job been done right the first time. So now I'm out of pocket. Tow fees, repair costs, and worst of all, it happened while it was with a Turo guest. Problem is that affects my Turo rating. And I tried contacting the installer multiple times over a few weeks to give him a chance to resolve it. I sent messages and follow-ups, but he kept telling me that he was moving to Florida and he couldn't commit to a time. That's when I decided to file a claim in small claims court. So leading up to the court date, I genuinely did not think he would show up. He told me a month earlier that he was going to be moving to Florida. His business address even had a Florida address listed. So I figured that I would win this case with a default judgment in my favor. But surprisingly, he showed up in his branded company vehicle, ready to fight the case. Now here's where I almost fumbled. Went in assuming that he wouldn't appear, and I didn't bring hard copies of my evidence. Everything I had was on my laptop. Text, photos, documentation. I assumed that the court would be fine with that, but the lesson I learned was always bring printed copies. Digital files don't hit the same in the courtroom, especially when a judge expects hard copies in paper. So the judge actually saved our case for last. For those that don't know, this is the Supreme Court. It's in Washington, D.C., but I'm just storytelling here. This really is not about the Supreme Court. It's about being in court. So the judge actually saved her case for last, probably because she knew it was going to take a while, and it did. We went back and forth for almost 30 minutes. I showed the court that I tried to contact him almost 3 times, over 3 weeks to try to get the issue resolved. He never gave me a date. He just kept pushing it off. I explained that since he wouldn't commit to fixing it, and I had a paying customer stuck on the road, I had to get it professionally repaired. I showed the invoice, the mechanics report, and everything. He even tried to defend himself and tried to ask me, why didn't I just wait for him to fix it? Like, I have to wait on him as if I already didn't wait on him already. And I told the court that, respectfully, the trust has already been broken. It's like going to a bar. If you mess me up once, I'm not going to go back to you again. This man actually said I need to change my mindset, which maybe I do, but not when it comes to running a professional business. We're not going to do that. You mess with my business asset, you mess with my livelihood. Now, here's the verdict. The judge ruled in my favor. I was awarded compensation for the repair on the tow truck. I had included toll charges on there as well because I felt that in my mind, it was important for me to get to the car immediately. So I had some tolls that I had taken to get to the car. And in order to allow me to get to the car as soon as possible, in order to not inconvenience the customer, the judge didn't accept that argument though, because the judge said I had misrepresented the tolls, which I didn't agree with, but I respect it. I also tried to include the cost of the process server who served in the paperwork, which cost cost me about $100 to $150. But I guess I waited too long to bring it up and I didn't get awarded the money because I think that the judge was so tired of hearing our case. When I say that the judge looked stressed out, she just pretty much banged her gavel and was pretty much done with it. So I didn't feel like I had the ability to press the issue after she's banged her gavel. I just gave up on it. It was only $100. $100 is a lot to some people, but it's one of those things I'm just gonna have to live with because as long as I got the majority of my money back, I'm okay with that. So lesson learned, present everything up front from the start, from the beginning, so that way you can explain your case throughout the case. Still though, I got my court fees back and my most expensive fees paid.
Like that camera?
Only had it for about a month. I'm loving it. It's amazing. it's most definitely. It's probably the best camera I had so far. So now, after the ruling, I gave him 30 days to pay. Around day 25, I reminded him that if he did not pay, I would put a lien on his company vehicle and whatever other legal things that I can do just to scare him a little bit. I don't know if I technically would be able to do that. Maybe I would have sent it to collections, but that was enough to get him to pay. At the end of the day, I didn't want any drama. I just wanted to be made whole again. I gave him multiple chances to fix the issue before I even filed. But when it started affecting my business and my reputations, I had to act. So in closing, here's the key takeaway. If you're running a business that involves assets like cars and equipment, document everything. Communicate clearly, and if something goes wrong, try to handle it the right way first. But if you have to go to court, try to show up prepared and take it seriously. So guys, if you've ever had to deal with small claims or have had a similar situation with a vendor or a contractor and you had to take them to court for small claims, drop a comment. I'd love to hear your experience. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, stay tuned because I got more Turo stories and Turo journeys and stuff coming soon. All right guys, later. Take care of yourselves and each other.